Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 811 for the 21st of April 2024. Richard Saunders coming to you from the Skeptic Zone studios, the temporary Skeptic Zone studios here in Berkeley, California, where spring has sprung and the flowers are just everywhere. Coming up on this week's show, two people who are as fresh as daisies, Kate and Allie. Kate and Allie. It's Adrienne Hill and Kat McLeod, otherwise known as Kate and Allie when they're together. They're going to be talking about the dangers of herbs, or, if you prefer, herbs. Take your pick. And this time they're reporting on a frightening development from Japan. Kate and Allie with herbs and herbs coming up at the top of the show. Following that, I catch up with my old mate, Dr. Steve Roberts, who's been a very long time skeptic here in Australia. And we sit around the Skeptic Zone table in Australia and chat about UFOs and the latest UFO flaps and UFOs over history and why aren't they here and all that sort of good stuff that skeptics like to talk about. Then we have a reading from the Book of Tim with Tim Mendham. Tim's going to be talking about scares, sounds, spooks, and sickness. What's all that about? Find out with the Book of Tim. Then to round off the show, more, well, sort of in the vein of UFOs, sort of-ish, a little bit. It's a topic we don't hear much about anymore. It's sort of a fad that's come and gone. Crop circles. And of course we remember that a decade or so ago, people were very serious about crop circles, having lectures and specials and movies and books all about crop circles and the special messages they convey, and the aliens are here and any minute now, and this is a message from the nature of the universe, of the magical, and so it goes. And what happened? Well, they sort of just, they had their time in the sun, literally, although they were mostly created at nighttime. Crop circles, a blast from the past, coming up later on in the Trove segment. Now, a quick note about an item we covered in Trove on the last episode about creationism, the Australian skeptics, and Dick Smith, one of the founding patrons of Australian skeptics. 40 years ago, talking about creationism, he is quoted in the Sydney Morning Herald saying, quote, "I have no definite personal opinions on creationism, as I have not had the time available to acquaint myself of all the arguments, both rational and irrational," end quote. Dick has written to me to assure me that he did have quite definite personal opinions on creationism even 40 years ago. And we're left to speculate whether he was misquoted or the reporter was trying to coalesce what Dick was saying at the time into a quote. But I think after rereading the item, and if you heard it last week, I think you too would be in no doubt that Dick Smith was certainly on the side of science and skepticism 40 years ago, as indeed he is today. Well, that's enough for me at the moment. It's time for me to open the studio door. Where is it? It's over here. Open it again in a moment, run around the corner, find some peanut butter toast. And while I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. You can count on Adrienne with Adrienne Hill.
Hello, everyone. This is Adrienne Hill from Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada. And I have Kat with me again. Hello, Kat.
Hi, Adrienne. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. You staying warm?
You know I'm trying to, eh?
So unfortunately, herbal remedies have been in the news again recently. Kat, can you tell the Skeptic Zone listeners a little bit more about what we have found?
Sure, Adrienne. Sadly, it's not good news. At the end of March, there was a news event from Japan where there were 5 deaths and over 100 people hospitalized after taking a herbal product used to lower cholesterol. The pills, manufactured by Osaka-based Kobayashi Pharmaceutical Company, were taken off shelves as the health scare began to grow in magnitude. Since then, the company officials confirmed 114 people have been hospitalized. All had taken products containing an ingredient named benakoji, which is a species of red mold. Traditionally, benakoji has been used to make Chinese sake and Okinawa fermented tofu. When made properly, yeast grown on rice produces various compounds, including lovastatin, which is known to lower cholesterol. But if something goes wrong in production, instead you get citrulline, a chemical linked to kidney, liver, and cell toxicity. Since lovastatin is classified as a drug, it is often left out as an ingredient by supplement makers looking to avoid the additional regulatory scrutiny. Many people use the herbal product as it's cheaper than prescription statin drugs. ConsumerLab.com, which is a collective of international labs, tested red yeast rice supplements in 2022, finding citrulline in 30% of the products tested. One product had 65 times the European limit of citrulline. Some people in Japan developed kidney problems after taking the supplements, but the exact causes of the death and illnesses are still under investigation. The company has used the ingredient for years without incident until late last year. While the company learned of the issues in January, the public wasn't informed and a recall wasn't issued until late March. They know the product was exported to China and Taiwan, but are not sure if it was exported for sale in those countries or sold on to other markets. Amid the fears over benakoji, approximately 40 other products containing the mold as an ingredient were also recalled, including crackers, miso paste, and a vinegar dressing, some of which use the fungus as food coloring. The Japanese Health Ministry warned that the number of deaths may continue to rise as the full scope of the problem becomes apparent.
This is so unnerving, and a story I am sure many people will continue to follow as we learn more. And I recently learned of this from a post on social media by one of my favorite Calgarians who constantly is battling pseudoscience, and this is psychologist Dr. Jonathan Stee. And he reposted a comment by Adrienne Hill, MD, that stated, quote, "Today was my career record for de-prescribing supplements. Lovely new patient with CAD." Now, Kat, what's that?
Coronary artery disease.
Taking a total of 132 supplements per day.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, you read that right. Thanks to all of the longevity, so-called longevity, experts who love a grift, we replace them all with $4 worth of rosuvastatin. Wellness is unwell, end quote.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking. I can't imagine taking 132 of anything a day.
What led us down this rabbit hole was what Jonathan Stee said when he reposted this. And what he said was, quote, "More than 100,000 over-the-counter herbal and dietary supplements available in the U.S. Americans spent more than $9.6 billion on herbal products in 2019. Herbal and dietary supplements account for up to 20% of drug-induced liver injuries and can lead to liver failure requiring transplant," end quote. And he links to a journal that talks about this.
Yes, if you follow the link, it goes to a study and talks about DILs. And DILs are drug-induced liver injuries. And that's 9.6 billion with a B.
Yeah, it's astounding.
Like, that is greater than some countries' GDP.
I find it really frustrating when so many of these people who take these supplements are blaming big pharma for trying to make money when this is a huge moneymaker. It's very sad. One of the other things that I really enjoyed that Adrienne Hill posted was about Joe Rogan.
She got a lot of heat from it when she posted on Instagram, but I loved it.
Interesting. I think it's fantastic. What she says in her tweet is Joe Rogan is goop for men. Both spread misinformation. And I think she's correct.
And there's a picture of Joe and Goopy Gwyneth.
Yes, and Goopy Gwyneth. It's sad that we have to keep coming back to this topic, Kat.
It really is.
It's distressing to me. But thank you so much for joining me again for this brief update, and we'll keep you updated if anything more pops up on the horizon.
Absolutely. I wish it was under better circumstances that I was here, but I think it's really important for people to remember that herbs are very dangerous, very serious. I'll keep nagging about it as long as you have me back.
I certainly want to have you back, but hopefully maybe it won't be for this in the future. Maybe it'll go away.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Oh, we'll have a party. We'll break out the tiaras.
Yeah, break out the tiaras and just play more dice game.
All right. I like that.
Have more fun. That would be awesome if we didn't need to talk about this anymore.
Oh, I live for the day.
Thanks so much, Kat. Until next time, this is Adrienne Hill and
Kat McLeod from Canada.
Hello, everyone. Adrienne Hill from Skookum Studios in Canada, here to talk to you about a great excuse to visit Calgary, besides the moose, maple syrup, and mountains. The second annual Western Canadian Reason, or Week in Reason Conference, is happening the weekend of May the 3rd at the Sandman Signature Hotel for a free pub night that will include a Star Wars costume contest, spoon bending, trivia, live comedy, and music. On Saturday, May the 4th be with you, the talks will be held at the University of Calgary downtown campus across the street from the hotel. The great lineup features Dr. Eugenie Scott, noted pancake-eating expert Richard Saunders, Jonathan Jerry, Hemant Mehta, James Fell, the sweary historian, Kat McLeod, and a keynote from Dr. Cara Santamaria. Check out the website at www.weekinreason.com for more information on speakers, hotel, and activities. I hope to see you there, or you might be, sorry.
Recently, I had the great pleasure of hosting Dr. Steve Roberts from Melbourne, an old friend of mine and a long-time member of the Australian Skeptics. For many years, Dr. Steve Roberts has been called upon by the media to comment on UFOs. In this informal interview, this chat, we talk about UFOs and the latest UFO hype.
UFOs,
What do you know about UFOs?
You can beat them off with a stick.
That's what's happened.
The pink ones are the worst.
Pink UFOs. Have you seen many pink UFOs?
Oh yeah, when I've had a few, we get the pink ones come and they're worse.
Rendlesham Forest.
Yeah, that's
a classic. That's Brian Dunning covers that.
They go round and round and round with that. It's been explained to death. It's a lighthouse or military lights.
Seems to be a lighthouse.
A lot of things go on in the forest, but you need more just lights seen in a forest, which has lights all over the place. You need to actually catch a red hot flying saucer to be convincing about this.
No one's ever
caught one.
This is one of the points that I increasingly turn to over the years is as each year progresses, we can look back and say, well, that's another year without evidence, good evidence. Then you say, well, that's another decade without good evidence. What are we approaching?
70 years, yeah.
70 years of people.
More, 75 years.
75 years of people saying they're here, they're coming, I've seen them, I know they're happening.
Like Jesus Christ, he's meant to be coming.
That's right. And for how long do you think this can continue? Given the rapid advance of our own technology. I mean, will it be the stage in another 50 years that our technology will have advanced so much that no one's going to be running around saying the UFOs are here because...
We have that now. When mobile phones came in, the advert for mobile phones in 1993 was somebody in a field, a UFO lands, and say, quick, phone somebody, because you have the phone there with you. Okay, and before that, you couldn't phone, you have to run home and do it.
Yeah.
And then you could have the mobile phone and say, I'm in the field, there's a UFO. And then of course, later you have a camera in the phone.
Yeah.
And this has completely wiped out the phenomenon.
It is amazing, you know.
There are no UFO pictures, but everybody's got a camera in their pocket these days.
I've got, not only a camera for taking stills, but most people have got a high-definition movie camera in their pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would think that the great video evidence would be flooding in.
Yeah, if there was something there. So.
But then again, why would they want to come here anyway?
There's higher debates about this.
That's right. The best answer I can give. People ask me, do you think there's life out there in the universe? My best answer is, I think there probably is, but honestly...
that's an estimate.
We don't know.
There almost certainly is. It is certainly too far away to communicate with.
That's Brian Dunning's argument. They're just all too far away. We can never communicate. Yeah. Well...
It's very likely there's life forms out there somewhere.
We might detect something, but to have any meaningful...
You won't even detect it.
Won't even detect it? You don't think? No?
You have your job detecting the star that the planet orbits around, let alone the communications.
Yeah. But the movies that we've grown up with and the TV shows just have people flitting from planet to planet, from system to system. It's nothing, right? It's
otherwise it ruins the plot. Yeah.
Otherwise it ruins the plot. And yes, you have to remind yourself it's just a device to tell a story.
They have it right in Dune. They say we have a way of folding space, and that allows you to travel from planet to planet.
Yeah.
And then wage wars and all this, because you can get this spice and you can fold space and then travel in a finite time to places.
Yeah.
And don't argue about how you fold space. Or there's no story.
It just happens.
Yeah, otherwise there'd be no story.
But the interesting thing, of course, if there was something travelling at close to the speed of light, very close to the speed of light, the time passing for the passenger in the aircraft, in the spacecraft, would be negligible. It would be minutes or hours, and you'd be across the other side.
You could be somewhere, but by the time you came back to Earth, they would have all advanced.
All gone.
X number of years.
Yeah, yeah.
So, now we have more concerns with life on the planet,
Well, this is another
If
good
human
point.
beings could get on with one another, that would be...
That's a start.
Helpful.
That would be very helpful.
If you're a sort of woman in Palestine or something, you've got bigger fish to fry than whether there's space aliens or not.
You're not worried about the US government trying to hide something in Area 31. It's not
51.
really a much... Or 51.
Yeah,
What is it? Did I say 31? 51. It's not much of a concern.
And we don't understand what's on the seabed. We don't actually know. We don't know what whales do when they go deep in the water. We don't know what they do down there. So there's other things we don't know on the planet.
They go down and they talk to aliens, probably.
High pressure aliens. We don't really know what's on the seabed. We don't really understand life. We discover these volcanic vents on the seabed which generate life. And that's a recent discovery.
They sustain life.
Yeah.
So there's life down there called extremophiles that don't rely on the sun.
Yeah. And they're getting on just fine. So,
or isn't there also some microbes that live in permafrost or something crazy like that?
Yeah, and things tardigrades can survive.
Tardigrades,
extreme conditions.
So it seems to me that once life gets a foothold, it goes bonkers, right? It goes bananas and
it evolves to survive harsh
amazing.
conditions.
Yeah. So. Again, I get back to the best answer I always give is I don't know if there's life out there. I don't see why not.
Yeah.
But it's so far away.
I don't have special knowledge.
No.
If you think you've met an alien, then you have special knowledge that makes you special. And I've had this feeling briefly. I've seen a UFO, which I couldn't identify at the time. And I think, wow, here come the aliens. And so I can't identify, and it must be... I can't see what it is. It's not an aeroplane. It's not anything. It's a UFO. And now I'm seeing it. I'm the only one. I thought I'm the only one that's seeing it. That wasn't logical. It was in Melbourne. And, millions of people
would have seen it, yes.
Well, it was an airplane,
Yeah.
I kept watching it like the airplane we saw today. I kept watching it and it flew overhead.
With the current UFO flap kerfuffle with Ross Coulthart and his... any day now exposés and the US government are hiding and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the alien outside the window. There's all these birds flying past. Yeah. It's getting tiresome, and I thought of something some time ago, not so long ago. I was thinking about this. I said, it's like the little boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
Well, the big difference is there's no wolf,
Yeah.
right?
Well, there wasn't when he cried wolf, that's the thing.
Well, but the wolf came.
Yeah.
Eventually, the story is the wolf happened. The wolf came along and everyone ignored it. Well, these UFO proponents keep crying wolf decade after decade after. The wolf still hasn't appeared.
So if they were to land, I would straight away start thinking, is this genuine? Do we know this for a fact? Do you believe everything the government tells you?
Or it's a publicity stunt.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
I don't know.
You can explain it more rationally than aliens landing.
Well, that's a good
point. It's a publicity stunt.
Yeah, it's a publicity. Well, when that day comes.
Yeah.
When that case.
Some phenomenon you can't understand.
Take the solar eclipse. If people some thousands of years ago, or how many years ago it was, who lived their whole life, and then suddenly one day the sun disappears.
Yeah.
They would have been somewhat taken aback.
Totally freaked out.
Maybe.
Then it reappears.
And everything's okay again.
You think, well, we should avoid this happening again, or will it happen again?
Yeah.
And then over generations, you get some knowledge of this. It does happen.
Over generations.
For a few minutes.
But there must have been a time in at some stage or other where it happened, completely took the local population, completely took them by surprise.
By surprise, yeah.
What is going on?
That's right.
The Skeptic Zone cats are here.
Oh. Cat.
They don't understand things like aliens or daylight saving because they think it's their dinner time now. The clock on the wall says it's their dinner time.
Yeah.
No, the clock on the wall doesn't say it's dinner time. Their tummies say it's dinner time because of daylight saving, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But it's not, they still have to wait another hour. They don't understand.
Yeah, the grandchildren are upset by that as well.
Well, thank you for your thoughts on UFOs, Steve. We'll wait another year to see if the aliens finally arrive.
Why another year?
All right, another 70 years.
We waited another year from last year.
That's right.
Hello, everyone out there. Thank you for coming to our service.
Yes.
We are ready to heal you. We are Ross and Carrie. We are faith healers. Yes, you there.
Yes, sir. You have a spirit of...
not listening to enough podcasts.
We have the solution for that.
Oh, we can cure you.
You should listen to Oh No, Ross and Carrie. Hallelujah. It's on Maximum Fun.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you there. Gladys.
A spirit of boredom?
Oh my goodness, we have the solution for you. It is to listen to the podcast,
Oh No, Ross and Carrie.
And now, a reading from the Book of Tim with Tim Mendham.
Hi, my name's Tim Mendham. I'm the editor of Australian Skeptics journal, The Skeptic, and I'm Executive Officer for Australian Skeptics Inc. And today we'll be reading from The Skeptic magazine for September 2022, which is volume 42, number 3. So it's a fairly recent issue of the magazine, but you can still download it from our website, which is skeptics.com.au, as you can with most of the magazines that we publish. But this one is from the section called What Goes Around, which is where we start off with a fascinating fact or situation and realise that through linkages from one story to the next, you can actually make it all the way back to where you came from. And this one is about scares, sounds, sickness, and spooks. And so it goes. To get a boost from a film soundtrack, especially for films designed to scare the audience, sound designers use infrasound, a low-frequency burst of consciously inaudible noise that creates unease in people who don't even know they're hearing it. It has been dubbed the fear frequency. In 2003, British scientists showed that extreme bass used in film scores can produce deeply emotional effects in humans. This includes the anxiety and chilling sensation often found in horror movie scores. These scientists tested the effect on audience at a London concert. Some of the music contained 17 hertz infrasound, while other pieces did not. Those who experienced the infrasound reported emotions of unease, sorrow, and nervousness. Now, infrasound, sometimes referred to as low status sound, describes sound waves with a frequency below the lowest limit of human audibility, generally 20 hertz. Hearing becomes gradually less sensitive as frequency decreases, so for humans to perceive infrasound, the sound pressure must be sufficiently high. The ear is the primary organ for sensing low sound, but at higher intensities it is possible to feel infrasound vibrations in various parts of the body. People use this frequency range for monitoring earthquakes and volcanoes, charting rock and petroleum formations below the earth, and also in ballistocardiography and seismocardiography to study the mechanics of the heart. It was also used in the 1970s to create sensurround, a low-frequency sound that was felt rather than heard to heighten the experience of the film Earthquake. Infrasound can result from both natural and man-made sources. Natural sources include severe weather, surf, avalanches, earthquakes, volcanoes, waterfalls, carving of icebergs, meteors, and lightning. Non-linear ocean wave interactions in ocean storms produce pervasive infrasound vibrations around 0.2 Hz, known as microbaroms. Animals using infrasound include whales, elephants, hippopotamuses, rhinoceroses, giraffes, peacocks, alligators, even the purr of felines. Whales and elephants' loud, which is around 117 decibels, communication carries around 10 kilometres for elephants and potentially hundreds or thousands of kilometres for some whales. Man-made sources include sonic booms, explosions, diesel engines, loudspeakers, and wind turbines. Infrasound from wind turbines has been blamed for various negative health conditions, including annoyance, sleep disturbance, cardiovascular disease, metabolic effects, and mental and cognitive impacts. This has been studied, including looking at the health effects of both wind turbine noise and road traffic noise. In meta-studies, it was found that while wind turbine high noise level was only associated with higher noise annoyance, road traffic noise level was related both to annoyance and various health effects. The literature did not show that low-frequency sound results in extra annoyance on top of normal sound. Road traffic noise could be a larger health risk in wind turbine areas than the turbines themselves. Infrasound does have certain effects. Vic Tandy, experimental officer and part-time lecturer in the School of International Studies and Law at Coventry University, was working late one night alone in a laboratory of a medical manufacturer. The lab had a history of supposed hauntings. At one stage he felt very anxious and he said, "I was sweating but cold and the feeling of depression was noticeable." And he could detect a grey blob out of the corner of his eye. When Tandy turned to face the grey blob, there was nothing there. The following day he was working on his fencing foil, it's a sword, with the handle held in a vice. Although there was nothing touching it, the blade started to vibrate wildly. Further investigation led Tandy to discover that the extractor fan in the lab was emitting a frequency of 18.98 Hz, very close to the resonant frequency of the eye, given as 18 Hz by NASA. Tandy conjectured this was why he had seen a ghostly figure, an optical illusion caused by his eyeballs resonating. The room was half a wavelength in length, and the desk was in the centre, thus causing a standing wave which caused the vibration of the foil. He and psychology researcher Dr. Tony Lawrence wrote a paper called Ghosts in the Machine for the Journal of the Society for Psychical Research. Their research suggested that an infrasonic signal of 19 Hz might be responsible for some ghost sightings and possibly sick building syndrome, or perhaps unease, sorrow and nervousness, which brings us back to the scary soundtracks. And that's what goes around from the Skeptic magazine, September 2022, which is volume 42, number 3. And as I said, you can download that whole issue of the magazine from our website, skeptics.com.au. Just go to the magazine heading and pull down and you can see all the magazines there, apart from the 4 most recent ones, which we say for our readers, which I think is fair enough.
Hi, this is Dr. Pamela Gay from Astronomy Cast. Each week, Fraser Kane and I take our listeners on a fact-based journey through the cosmos. With our weekly podcast, we explain not just what we know, but how we know what we know about this universe that we share. Check us out at astronomycast.com and look for us in iTunes, Google Play, and wherever you download podcasts. See you online.
Once again, to go round in circles, to go round in crop circles in the pages of Trove and other resources of digitised newspapers. Crop circles is it's a topic we haven't covered for a while, and we've only covered it once before in the Trove segment some years ago. But I love the old goodies, the old classics. Well, actually, crop circle is the claim isn't as old as other claims. Nevertheless, it's always a good lesson for us to remember a fad of something not so long ago in history that people were obsessed by, which they swore black and blue were real, which was a definite sign of alien intelligence, which would change the world, the new awakenings, the new age, the dawn, the bird. You've heard it all before. But it does behoove us to go back occasionally and revisit these things to remind ourselves that many of the things that come along are simply flash in the pans. They go away. They have fads and then they go away. Unlike UFOs that keep coming back. Now, they're UAPs, but I think it's pretty safe to say crop circles have had their time in the sun. I think they're still around. I think they're probably here and there, but by and large, the society's moved on. And we look back with some nostalgia at the time crop circles were being made and becoming quite infamous. Well, let's see what was reported in the pages of the Sydney Morning Herald on the 22nd of December, 1991. And that was, it was the beginning, more or less, around the time that these things started to really take off in popularity, or notability, maybe we should say. And this is a story by Matt Condon in London. Experts reject crop circle hoax. And hoax is in inverted commas. Doug and Dave had no idea what they were unleashing. The two British friends stunned the world earlier this year by claiming they were the hoaxers responsible for the mysterious crop circle phenomenon. They enjoyed brief celebrity regarding newspapers and television chat shows with their stories of creeping into crop circles late at night, after a pint or two, and carving shapes and symbols that baffled the boffins. Seems the only time you hear the word boffins is in a sentence with the word baffled. The revelation was particularly embarrassing for the so-called experts and the huge industry that has grown up around the mysterious circles. Several books have been written on the subject and translated into a number of languages. Theories abounded, from interplanetary visitors to hitherto unknown meteorological forces. Then came Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley. There was confusion, but then crop circle experts refused to retreat in the face of the hoax claims. In fact, they now believe Doug and Dave were recruited by Britain's Ministry of Defence to diffuse interest in the subject. And it may go further, according to some experts, in fact, to the top of the CIA and the French Secret Service. George Wingfield of London's Centre for Crop Circle Studies has been the leading voice of the conspiracy theorists. Author Pat Delgado, who has just completed his third book on the subject, also leans towards a government cover-up. Doug Bauer, though, had no such illusions when he said recently, "These people are crazy. They don't understand the phenomenon is over." Wingfield believed that more than a year ago, the Thatcher government held a meeting, quote, at ministerial level, end quote, which included representatives from the Ministry of Defence regarding the circles. To avert public hysteria over the mystery, Wingfield believed the MOD, Ministry of Defence, recruited Doug and Dave to claim it was a hoax. They were given a brief training course in how to make a crop circle, and their story was targeted for Rupert Murdoch's Today newspaper, where they were sure it would gain maximum coverage. Wingfield also believes there were a number of government spies working undercover at the Centre for Crop Circle Studies. Pat Delgado, author of the first book on crop circles, Circular Evidence, and that seems to be a bit of an ironic title, and the forthcoming Crop Circles Assesses the Evidence, told the Sun Herald he was convinced the British and the United States governments were involved. "My new book will reveal details of a crop circle found in the United States last summer, which was destroyed by the CIA," Delgado said. "I have photographic evidence that it was fenced off immediately by the CIA and destroyed with military equipment and then sprayed. There is also talk of the French government has been involved in a cover-up. As to the claims of Doug and Dave, it all sounds a bit hollow. We've tried to investigate the involvement of the British government, but as you know, the whole thing is compartmentalised, and we can't get any further. We're little voices crying in the wilderness. What Doug and Dave have done, however, is actually increase interest in crop circles rather than decrease it. They have blown it wide open." Delgado, a retired electromechanical design engineer, said the truth behind the formation of crop circles was still an unsolved mystery, despite the hoax claims. "It's pretty obvious there are forces at work that we do not yet understand," he said. "It is certain, though, that the riddle cannot be answered in a meteorological sense. That has been officially discounted." Delgado's co-author, Colin Andrews, was suspicious of the Doug and Dave hoax from the start, and recently toured Australia explaining the phenomenon. He is currently on an American lecture tour. Crop circles have already proved to be a big money spinner, with Delgado and Andrews' book being published in Germany, Italy, and Japan. They have been huge bestsellers. The Japanese in particular have been fascinated by the British crop circles and still regularly send camera crews for the latest on the mystery. In Japan this year there have been 70 reported cases of crop circles, and there has been a high activity in Canada and America, Delgado said. There was surprisingly little activity in Australia, though. So the theories continue to fly. Some experts in the paranormal have called the crop circles, quote, a cry from Mother Earth, end quote. A, quote, two-dimensional fingerprint of an incoming beam of consciousness, end quote. And even, quote, harbingers of the new age, end quote. The endless theories cut no ice with Doug and Dave. In fact, they seem to have become tired of the whole business. Doug, who works quietly in his picture-framing shop in Southampton, and Dave, an artist, may have wished they had never taken out their ropes and planks after a night at the pub. That's if they really did it, of course. Now, that last story mentioned interest in Japan, and indeed, in the Sydney Morning Herald only a few months earlier, Monday the 24th of June 1991, we have this story. Science takes on circles mystery. London, Monday. 19 Japanese physicists are gathered at a secret site in rural Wiltshire, southern England. The season of crop circles has begun. The team is led by Professor Yoshihiko Otsuki, and apologies if that's pronounced incorrectly, a plasma physicist from Waseda University, Tokyo, who has created ball lightning in his laboratory. The scientists will watch for circles at the remote site for the next 5 weeks, measuring wind speed and direction, as well as temperature, humidity, and the amount of electromagnetic radiation between the ground and the sky over the site. They are optimistic about catching a circle as it forms because several appeared in a field about 6 kilometers from their observation site last week. In March, the professor used his ball lightning apparatus to create a mock crop circle in a thin layer of aluminium powder on a metal plate inside a plasma chamber. This lent credence to the theories of Britain's Circle Effects Research Unit and its director, Terence Meaden. He believes such lightning and other rare weather systems known as vortices could be responsible for the crop circles. Dr. Meaden has been studying crop circles since 1980. He believes they appeared throughout history. Although it is still not clear how they are formed, he said a hill, still air, and a fresh oncoming wind striking the hill were prerequisites for the circles. He suspects the spate of circles seen in recent years has been influenced by the increase in sunspots as the sun has passed through the peak of its 11-year cycle of activity. This northern summer, the weather has been unusually unsettled and fewer crop circles have been reported. And that is credited to The Independent. It's almost like the aliens or whoever would rather not go out in unpleasant weather. And there's a brief mention here in the Sydney Morning Herald from 1992, the 10th of April, Crop Circles Lecture. And then the rest is tiny print, which is so obscure I can't actually make it out, which is a pity. All I can sort of make out the name, I think, Colin, possibly Andrews, researcher and author, UK expert on, and then it's just so obscure I can't read the rest of it. That would have been an interesting lecture. And finally, from the pages of the Herald once more, 10th of September 1991. 1991 was a big year for crop circles. I guess they were pretty popular throughout the 90s. I really came to jump on the fad, take notice of it more in the early 2000s. I remember attending a crop circle documentary screening in Sydney around that time. Anyway, the 10th of September 1991, Pop Goes the Corn, crop circle phenomena. London, Monday. 2, quote, jovial conmen in their 60s, end quote, one, a former Australian resident, are now expected tomorrow to show how they baffled the world with the great corn circle hoax. The corn circles, many located in southwest England, have spawned a multi-million-dollar research industry and a string of best-selling books since they were noted 13 years ago. They were thought to be the work of aliens or freak weather, but Today newspaper reports that Dave Chorley and Doug Bauer were responsible for most of them. The newspaper said they made the complex shapes, quote, with 2 wooden boards, a piece of string, and a bizarre sighting device attached to a baseball cap, end quote. Mr. Bauer said he had lived in Australia when similar circles were put into crops in Queensland as a joke. He and Mr. Chorley had hit on the idea while sitting in a pub, quote, wondering what we could do for a bit of a laugh, end quote. They would sketch and cut out their designs on white cardboard, then use planks with rope reins to flatten the corn with a simple wire gun sight on a baseball cap to keep in line. Australian Associated Press. And I remember something that James Randi used to say, that when I think it was the CIA were investigating psychics and spending millions of dollars, he said he could have just answered their phone call and told them what was really going on, and it would have cost them a dime. And of course, the simplest explanation for crop circles is people went out and made them. Not ball lightning, not aliens, not the universe trying to communicate with us, not interdimensional creatures. People having a bit of a laugh, which turned into something of an industry and an art form. So there we go, crop circles gone, but not forgotten. Actually, probably not gone altogether. I haven't heard about any new crop circles lately, and you would think that the younger generation now maybe would not have even heard about them at all. Maybe the aliens gave up. But don't give up. You don't have to give up. You can go to Trove at trove.nla.gov.au. And when you go there and do your search, you never know what circular things you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast, and thank you to my teacher friends in Australia who are enjoying a bit of a rest, a bit of a holiday. In certain states, some states not, but teachers have such a difficult job. And I note that many people are leaving the teaching profession, and we have to wonder why more time and resources aren't put into looking after teachers. You can scarcely think of a more important job in society than teaching the younger generation. Coming up on next week's Skeptic Zone, not sure yet. Reports have to come in. We have to see. I can't tell the future. Although I can tell you a little bit of next week's show. We go and visit a wonderful old skeptical topic of haunted houses. Haunted houses in the Trove segment, looking for references to ghosts and spooks and strange goings-on in the history of journalism in Australia. And it's not long now until the We Can Reason conference in Calgary, Canada, as you would have heard during the show. And if you go to wecanreason, one word, .com, wecanreason.com, you can find out more. And that will be on the 4th of May. So a bit of a Star Wars thing happening there. Lots of great speakers in Calgary, including Dr. Eugenie Scott, Dr. Cara Santa Maria, and many others. And I'll be there running around teaching spoon bending. Yes, Calgary's only spoon bending lessons at We Can Reason. And if you're in that neck of the woods, please come along. Or if you know somebody in Canada or North America or this part of the solar system, please let them know this conference is on. They may well be interested in attending. And if you do go along, please come up and say hello to me. I'd be delighted to see you. And don't worry, you don't have to bring your own spoon. But for this week, from the Skeptic Zone temporary studios, and I'll give you a big clue what these studios are, I'm surrounded by lots of coats and shirts and more coats. This is a big walk-in closet or wardrobe, which makes for a great studio on the fly, on the run, because all the clothes in here dampen the sound, so you don't get the echoing around the room. Goodness me. There's a tip for you budding podcasters out there. But until next week, this is Richard Saunders, signing off.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.
Hello to all the people who listen after the music. It's time for the dice game. This is where we roll a die 3 times and then a 4th time for fun. And you use your psychic, mystical, magical, blip, blip, blip powers, whatever, to guess what number comes up. I'm going to roll a D10. I don't have one with me here in this temporary studio. I do have a simulation on my iPhone, so I'm sure that's random enough for our mystical purposes. I'm going to roll 3 times now, so guess away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. Here it comes, the first number. 1. Today's first number is 1. Okay, here we go again. Guess away or look with your psychic vision into the future. Next roll is 5. There you are, Susan Gerberg. It still works. Here we go again. One more. Think of a number. Rolling now. It's another 1. Okay then. And the last roll, the supplementary, the extra one for fun. Here it comes. Think of a number. 7. 7. Today's numbers are 1, 5, 1, and 7. And this handy app here tells me that the total of all those numbers is 14. So if you're into numerology, I'm sure that makes a lot of sense for you. And while I'm here, because this is so much fun, I'm going to roll a D20 for the supplementary. Here we go. One more, a D20. So pick a number from 1 to 20. Here it comes. Well, would you believe it? The last number, and this really sends a mystical message to silliness, is 5.